Hello, everybody. I'm Rob, the movie guy, and this is...
I'm David, and we are here with TheNewReview.
We got a review for you today on a new movie called Recovery. Let's roll the trailer real quick.
You were in Afghanistan. 3 tours. Got a Purple Heart. Do you want to talk about your time overseas? No. A lot of vets turn to narcotics to numb their pain. Talking about it helps.
Ronnie being here and staying out of jail is contingent on her good behavior. So? This is not a VA hospital. We're not set up for these kinds of things. She is dangerous.
I fought and I won. I had a purpose every day. And then I came here. And what's here? Nothing. Nothing means anything here. What are we seeing? My bathroom. Not safe.
So, with Recovery, we have a story of a war veteran who's come back into civilian life, who has suffering from PTSD, and she has made some pretty harsh mistakes and became a drug addict along the way. And now she is going through a rehab facility to basically recover from her addiction. So that is essentially the plot of the film. And then, of course, there's a horror and thriller aspect of it that you saw in the trailer, kind of giving you a who had done it type of thing, and they're giving you a sense of who it is or who it could be, as established in the trailer. Overall, the film I thought was okay. So let's start off real quick with some of the info about the film. Directed by John Lang, who I've noticed has not done I think this is his first feature film that he's done. And he's
also written and directed it.
Yes, and he has also done several shorts as well too that he's also produced along the way. The film does also star Stephanie Pearson, who plays Ronnie Price. She's also been in a film called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr., and she's also been in Insidious Chapter 2, which I haven't seen in a long time, but apparently she plays the dark-haired woman, so I don't remember much of that film, unfortunately. But we also have, I'm a big fan of this actor in Mike Starr, who plays Dr. Taylor, who's in Dumb and Dumber, Goodfellas, Ed Wood, Summer of Sam. So he's worked with some big, heavy hitters. When I first saw him in the trailer, I was like, oh, Mike Starr, I'm in, because I am a genuine fan of the guy. Especially the films he's in.
Yeah.
And then we
also fan. So, when I saw him, in the trailer as well, the same reaction. I'm like, all right. So this seems pretty legit,
Right. I felt the exact same way. So, and we also have Hope Quatrocki, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. She plays Jessica Barnes, the doctor in the film. And she's mostly just done shorts as well too. And there's a lot of the actors in the film I felt were fantastic in the part. So let's start off here something with what you and I liked about the film. So like I said before, the film is just basically about a war veteran who has become a drug addict after serving several tours in Afghanistan, and then has apparently committed some crimes, and she was given a choice to either go to jail or go to rehab.
Yeah, it's kind of like an ultimatum type of thing.
Pretty much, yeah. So she obviously chose rehab, as you saw in the trailer. She's in the rehabilitation center here to recover from her addictions, which they kind of didn't delve too much into it. I think, which was like heroin or something. I think it was heroin was what she was addicted to the most, right? So
you mentioned heroin. Didn't know exactly which one, but yeah.
Right. So she's basically going to do that, and then along the way she has you can see right off the bat that she is a very ill-tempered, very moody, very isolated person, and the rehab center has a very strict policy when it comes to aggression, if you will. So if you strike somebody, that's a one-strike deal, you're out. And unfortunately, that's what ended up happening, where she gets into a scuffle with somebody who challenges her and forces her in a situation where she's got to defend herself to some capacity, and then she ends up fighting. She has this blackout, and then you see an image of a man that is around her when she's having this rage mode, which kind of gives you like almost like a superstition, a very supernatural type of element to it. in the film. But
that was when you watch the film. It's kind of like the setup that you're getting.
right,
It felt like it was affecting the environment. So, and then
yes,
we'll touch on that on a little bit because after watching it a little and then going over kind of looking back at some of the scenes, there's some things that kind of stand out with that.
yeah, and good point on that as well too. And then of course you get introduced to like I said, the doctors. You have Mike Stowe plays Dr. Taylor, who in the trailer kind of comes off as like almost like the main antagonist, when in fact he is not. He certainly does kind of give that illusion that he is in some capacity. And then of course you have Dr. Jessica Barnes played by Hope Quadracci. We're just going to call her Hope because I don't want to butcher her last name anymore. But she is essentially like the secondary character who is wanting to help out with all the addicts in this rehab center there, and you also get a bit of a backstory on her as well too, especially when she's trying to speak and help Ronnie out, played by Stephanie Pearson, and there's a connection that she has with her because her brother is also a war veteran himself. And you kind of get a little bit of backstory on her brother that he is served in Afghanistan and come back and couldn't get back into the civilian life and ended up getting into drugs and passing away from that. So that's her involvement in wanting to help Ronnie. That's her connection to her, and that's why she's so invested in wanting to help her out. And she certainly was a very nice added element to as a supporting character for Ronnie in this film. I mean, what did you think overall within that aspect?
I just said that she was very believable in her role.
Yeah.
Like she came off as very genuine and very believable, and caring, and as a supporting character, you kind of see somewhat through which what she had been through and kind of how she was. Why she was motivated to help Ronnie and the other patient.
And that's the backstory with her brother, which they delve into the film later on to kind of you can see the reasons why she's so invested. And then of course you have other supporting characters as well too. You have the heroin the patient who was born of heroin, whose parents were heroin addicts, so she was basically bred into that environment, and therefore she has a hard time conforming to the normal society. So she has these addictions that she's born with, if you will, and it's kind of a sad story when you learn more about her character. I thought she was fine in the film as well too. She definitely added a certain element in the support as well for Ronnie, and of course you got all these other antagonists towards Ronnie, if you will, where you have I forgot one of the Lori was one of the characters' name in there that has a thing out for Ronnie.
Louise was Tanya.
Tanya
was played by Tanya Alexander. Yeah.
Thank you. So there you have her as being one of the main antagonists that you think.
Somewhat antagonist who antagonizing Ronnie, but not really an antagonist.
But her friend was. Remember her friend? Her friend that she was Lori's friend was the one that started the whole beef with Ronnie. So, and because they were in cahoots with one another, she. In loyalty of her friend, she now has that same beef with Ronnie as well too. So you kind of have that setup, which kind of gives you the illusion. Because I think one thing we forgot to mention too, that in the beginning of the film, you see somebody carrying a piece of glass that's wrapped around with a towel and it's covered in blood pretty much, and you don't know who it is, but they're passing over some dead bodies, one with a scissor stuck in someone's back, and then some other dead bodies you see as well too. And then you're getting the impression, that whoever's walking past these dead bodies is in fact the killer. And then as soon as that person turns around, it's Ronnie, and then it goes cut back to 3 days earlier. So you're kind of getting this. You have the idea, okay, something went down. And now we're going to see what led up to that moment. That's the beginning of the film.
So it's pretty okay setup. It was a pretty decent setup.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. Let's start off with some the cons. We didn't like. We'll go into the pros, and we'll go from there.
Well, okay. So let's hear your cons first. What are some of the biggest problems you had with the film?
It's a good question. Leading up to it, you kind of get the tension build up for the beginning part of the movie, which I will go to be one of my pros, but we'll get to that. a lot of it was kind of, you get kind of that very Girl Interrupted feel throughout
Yes.
the movie
Good
a little
point.
bit.
Yes.
Um, and you kind of were hoping, I guess, to get a little bit more character development or more background, because I didn't feel invested with the characters. Most of the story revolved around Ronnie and why she was there, and setting her up as as the beginning, you see in the beginning of the movie, as she was the killer or potential killer of the situation, what was going on. That was my main issue. Especially trying to kind of going through. I'm like, oh, I kind of wanted to delve a little bit more deeper into some of these characters and see a little bit more about them and why they were there, and kind of made me feel a little bit more invested in them.
Yeah.
The story, as you mentioned earlier, at first did seem like it was going to have a supernatural element to it,
Yeah.
as maybe Ronnie was possessed or she was being haunted. That's kind of the feeling I got. But
Yes.
as the story progressed, you kind of see like, all right, see, she's suffering from PTSD, and it's kind of was almost a metaphor for that. I
Yeah.
kind of wish that was kind of used more differently as to Ronnie's situation and seeing what was real and what was not,
Yeah.
and then kind of a little bit more mystery to it. They're kind of like, oh, was that really a dead body, or was that not a dead body, or was it actual real to her? Did she do it, or did she hallucinate? That I feel like would have been a better handle on things of the story, anyways.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some issues with some of the action sequences,
Yeah.
but I
A little
think
weak, I thought.
it was a little weak, yeah. And then the twist was a little weak for me,
Yep.
but it was one of those things where like it may have been weak, but it's still, I'm like, okay, it was kind of forgivable because of the actress portraying it.
Yes.
So, amazing job.
Yep.
That's my cons so far.
Yeah. Well, I agree with pretty much everything that you said. I definitely wish they delved more into the characters as far as developing the characters are concerned, because there's a lot of exposition told from someone else, from somebody else, of what these characters are, backgrounds are. The one thing I want to say, I kind of want to bring in a positive for me that I thought was very good, but that focus on the negative aspect of it for me, which was the fact that this is a female war veteran who has come back from serving her tours in Afghanistan. I think she did 3 tours that they mentioned in the films, and then she's coming back to get herself readjusted to civilian life, and can't do, and she's become a drug addict along the way because of the severe depression she's going through now. And I thought that was interesting for them to take that approach and from a female perspective, because that's something we don't see quite often. And I don't think, to me, if I can remember correctly, this is the first time I'm seeing a female character who's a war veteran in a horror or thriller in this case, and that was interesting for me. But the way it was executed for me wasn't done very well, I thought, which is unfortunate, because this had a lot of great potential in really exploring that aspect of this character, especially a female character, because you've got a lot of great female characters out there that kind of have that. Like for me, a person that comes to mind is Sarah Connor. In the first Terminator film, she is this innocent, very soft spoken, very docile woman, and then come Terminator 2, she's this hardened soldier who clearly has been through the trenches, and she's prepared for war. And that's kind of how I was thinking this character would be like in this sense, and she kind of was in a lot of ways. So when I saw that aspect of the character, I was very excited for that, but just the way it was dealt with, it was kind of weak for me. And then, of course, I thought that the misdirection that you were given in this film was a little weak, especially with the plot twist at the end that you see who the real killer is. And you said it's forgivable because the actress that plays this killer, or actor plays this guy, say actor, the actor that plays this killer in the end did a phenomenal job. And when you see how they handled that portrayal of this character, I thought they did a great job. Just the setup leading up to that was a little weak, but then whatever else followed with that character after the fact was pretty good up until the whole scuffle, which was like you mentioned, for the action sequences were kind of weak. Unfortunately, you're right. You're right when you say it, because it felt kind of flat for me as well. And the overall setup was how the hospital was run, or the rehab facility was run, You have a core of people that are there. You have 3 employees. You have a security guard and 2 doctors. And then you have, what, 6, 7 patients out there. And we forgot to mention the fact that they're isolated because there's a blizzard that comes through, and so they're trying to call for help, but help is not going to be coming for another 2-3 days, which they mentioned that in the beginning of the film. And there's a lot of things that goes on that seems kind of unreasonable as why they still can't get to resolve in a timely fashion or in a professional protocol way, if you will. So that was kind of a little off-putting for me. It kind of took me out of the film, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
but,
a little bit. Yeah.
But overall, though, I think that those were really the biggest gripes I have with the film. I thought the actors were good.
The actors
there were certain aspects of the certain performances that I thought were a little weak, especially towards the end. But overall, those were my biggest gripes. I mean, but I'm kind of getting to the positives here for me. So, I mean, for you, what was the biggest positive that stuck out to you?
You kind of just segued into that, and that would be the actors. The actors did a phenomenal job. The writing for the actors, for the characters, was believable to a point. But the actresses who did those lines did a great job. Nothing came off too cheesy, except for the doctor, I think.
Yes.
He kind of felt like a very...
Now it's your turn to speak. You'll see when you see the film.
Yeah, and then the main doctor too is kind of weird, very kind of like Nickelodeon, almost feel to his kind of like antagonistic,
the little villainy character.
Yeah, that's kind of how he came off to me. And then, but I mean, that's but besides that, the character, the way the characters were portrayed were really well done. The message was really well done and really especially when it comes to taking care of our vets, when it comes to mental illness and healthcare. You could clearly hear and see the message when it comes to that. That I believe was really executed for the story. Was there other things we could have done differently? Yes, but the portrayal by the actresses by Miss Stephanie Pearson, and then the rest of the actresses did an amazing job. The interaction between each other was really well done. The cinematography was actually really good. Especially some of the scenes and some of the darker scenes as well. The action sequence were well done. I think one of the most better scenes, actually, the well shot scenes, was actually the beginning opening sequence.
The shots outside, you can see like the whole valley and the mountainside. Beautiful. I was like, wow, I want to go to that rehab center.
Beautiful setup. Beautiful setup, because they actually set up the isolation, kind of set up the story a little bit. I think there's anything else. The characters were actresses, phenomenal jobs. The cinematography was great.
The setting was good too. The purpose of having the rehab center at this mountainside, out kind of in the middle of nowhere, for the purpose of having no distractions, and you have this beautiful view of this countryside. I thought that was beautiful, and the fact that you also have this blizzard coming through. It kind of reminded me of Hateful Eight, where you have this blizzard coming through and everyone's trapped inside this one location. They can't get out unless you want to suffer through the storm. I thought that was a really nice setup. But, I mean, everything else kind of fell flat, unfortunately. But that was one of the bigger positives. I thought that the setup to that was beautiful, I thought. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the pros. Where actually the actresses and the actors and the director did a good job putting a story together. And I think mostly is the fact that I wanted to see it all the way through. That was I actually wanted to finish this film.
Yeah.
I think that's what made a good film for me. It was like, I got distracted. I had to take a couple clients to do the other stuff, but I actually wanted to come back and finish the film. I had to restart it a couple times, and be like, all right, cool. And then once I got all the way through, I'm like, I actually enjoyed myself. I actually for what it was.
Yeah, I felt the same. I don't think I ever recall ever looking at the clock to find out how much longer do I have, because it was a very genuine. It was a very genuine film, as far as like it was a fun movie for me to watch, because I was invested into the story. Again, before we negatives aside, it was a fun for me. It was actually a fun film to watch up until certain points of the film. But regardless of that, though, it was I don't think I ever got bored, to be honest with you. Not once did I get bored. The actors were phenomenal. Mike Starr, I love Mike Starr. Like I'm a big fan of him. Like I said, he's done a lot of great work. And he's worked with some heavy hitters. So the fact when I saw him in the trailer, like we mentioned before, I was like, holy crap, they got a really good actor in this part. I'm sure they've got a lot of good actors in other crappy movies, but the fact that he
played a
was
jerk so
in the
well.
film really sold me. To be honest, when I saw the trailer and I saw him, that sold me on the film right away. I was like, I'm in, because I am a genuine fan of that actor right there. So that certainly helped the appeal for me to want to see this film because of how good he was, and he's fantastic in the part.
So he plays a jerk so well, and he did. He did it. He played it well.
You can still kind of hear his New York accent in there from time to time when he started speaking, which I was like, "Oh, come on, Frenchie, come out!" But anyway, so he, I thought everyone was, all the actors were fantastic in there, and like you said, the cinematography was fantastic. The sceneries, like you said, when we look outside of the rehab center, you see all those nice mountain shots. It's beautiful. And the lighting was good too, especially in some of those darker the night shots. I thought they were pretty good. But I mean, I think that's. I mean, I don't know. Is there any other positive that sticks out to you as well too that you can think of?
Off the top of my head, I think that's it. Just the performances were pretty well with what they were given. The fact that I wanted to complete the story, I actually want to finish the story. It's the characterizations and some of the character development would have been a little bit more, and some of the execution when it came with some of the other story elements, because it kind of fell flat at the end.
Yeah.
That's the only gripe that I have, honestly.
Would you recommend this to? Would you recommend it to like a horror thriller fan, or would you just would you make a general recommendation just to almost anybody? Would, like, if someone would say, "Is this a good movie?" How would you go about recommending this film to them?
It's a good movie because you're gonna want to finish it.
Okay.
Now, is it can I put it in horror genre? Yes or no? It's more like a thriller.
Yeah, I think so.
Kind of like
like a mystery, like a mystery, if you will, right?
Yeah, almost kind of like a whodunit almost.
Yeah.
So I would recommend it. I'd recommend it. It wasn't a bad movie.
No.
It wasn't an amazing, great flick, but it was well executed, and I wanted to stick around to the end. And I think to me that's what makes a good movie, because I actually wanted to stick around to finish the story.
Yeah, I think the potential was
immense.
was there. Some things were a lot of missed opportunities. I would think, but I definitely would watch it again. I actually did enjoy the film quite a great deal, more so than I actually initially thought, especially with certain scenes that I thought were kind of flat. But as the story progressed, it kind of got better because of the twists that were coming. And then once you get that twist, which was kind of flat, but then the execution of the actor's portrayal of this character, actors, or
made up for it.
Yeah, I thought made up for it. So a lot of great qualities that in some ways kind of outweigh the negatives for me, but in certain aspects of it. But there's a lot of negatives that outweigh the positive for me as well. But there's little pockets here and there that I thought were well done here and there. So overall, you would what would you say to the film?
I say cheers.
A high cheers. I would say a high cheers as well too. I definitely enjoyed it. All right, well, I think we both know what we think of the film, and as anyone out there has not seen the film, I would recommend that you guys check it out. It is certainly worth a watch, and it's one of those films I always say it's worth a watch with a group of friends. Watching it alone for me was fine. I remember thinking when I was watching, this would be like a film to watch with a group of people, because you kind of the little mystery element that's established in this film certainly can get you invested in, as far as like having someone else's shout something at the screen, like that element of horror that's so prevalent in this community would be great for a film like this to watch on and with a bigger audience. So
I kept jumping around from who did it.
Yeah, and that's why I thought it was fun, even though, like I said, it was kind of flat for me at points, but that was still fun for me, and I enjoyed that. And Like I said, well, I mean, for any of you guys who have not seen the film, go out there and do so. I believe it's going to be available on demand. If I'm not mistaken, it'll be available on DVD and Blu-ray this Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So if you have seen the film, let us know what you think. And as you're doing so, give us a like and subscribe to New Release Wednesdays. And you can also follow New Release Wednesdays on Twitter at TheNRW and on Instagram at the New Release Wednesdays. And you can follow David at.
You can follow me at David is Disaster on my Twitter on Instagram, and you can follow Rob at
Rob Medina 0585 at Twitter, and on Instagram, Rob_Medina 0585. And until next time, thank you all for watching and cheers.
Cheers. And before we say cheers one more time, make sure you like and subscribe. If you like this video, check out our other videos here on NRW on YouTube. And don't forget to hit that little bell notification for anything else you guys want to follow us. So, cheers.